Awesome. Oh, I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for your phone call. If you don't mind, I got a couple questions for you, and
First, thank you for wanting to speak with me.
oh, I'm not gonna lie. It's been a long time since I've been this excited for a phone call, and probably waiting for a date in high school was the last time.
Well, that is very flattering, and I totally relate to that feeling, and those are good kinds of feelings to have every now and then. I'm glad I could be part of that kind of excitement for you. Thank you.
So essentially, I'm at Eastern Kentucky University. It's in Richmond,
Yeah.
Kentucky. I teach classes in the exercise and sports science department. So we got a lot of kids that are going to be athletic trainers, personal trainers, and some kids that are going to be PE teachers. So kind of an interest I've had is how a lot of individuals, go about their training, their nutrition, otherwise. So I just had a number of questions to ask you about that area.
Okay, great, awesome.
So the first question I have is kind of open-ended. Is what does physical fitness, what does training mean to you, and how has that changed throughout your life?
Well, in the most primary way, it is a way, it's a means with which to better oneself in the most elemental physical way, and to challenge the body while also improving it, and understanding that your body, while not necessarily being yourself, is a vehicle for yourself, or a container for yourself, or a means with which yourself can exist, at least in this version of life. And it'd be nice to think of it as an obligation to keep that body in the best form that it can be. It's sort of like one of the foundations of developing your character. And we think of like the character as sort of attitudes and your personality and your beliefs and your principles, but even maybe beneath that, or as much of a part of those emotional or intangible spiritual values, your body is very part of that. Or in fact, it's even more bizarre because it sort of bridges those two worlds. It bridges your inner world, your personality and your spiritual self, your soul, however you want to call it. Your mind is encased in your body, at least as far as we can tell, or how it seems to us. And then also you're using that body to interact in the outside world. So it's this almost like filter, or at least this shell that you have between those two experiences, what's inside your head and then what's going on outside your head. And maybe it's all connected, and maybe the body is the way that the situation that connects those two things. But it certainly is like among the core realms of important pursuit in terms of respecting it. And it's hard to really imagine excelling in any other area of life that matters or means anything if you haven't devoted yourself to your body. Something happened with the sound. Can you hear me? Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, no, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, so that's sort of like how I was thinking about it lately. But there's all kinds of issues that come up with that thinking, because out of in many ways, it seems like one of the most important things you can do is tend to your body and try to improve your body and try to improve your health through your body.
Mm-hmm.
But right away, we're aware that it can be very physically challenging. It can be very uncomfortable. And it seems, why would something that's so valuable be also so painful?
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, we can see a real sensational example of the pain of growth in general, the pain of challenging oneself, beyond the body. Like, it's just as painful, or even more painful, to try to grow as a person, not to challenge your ideas, to challenge your feelings, to challenge yourself to grow, mentally or spiritually. And we can see that in a very blatant way when we try to challenge ourselves physically. But we know that somewhere deep down inside, that pain is good. It's a growing pain. And you can, oftentimes I can relate to physical pain and say, well, I got through that physical pain, maybe during a show or during some exercise, feeling that physical discomfort and knowing that if I got through that, maybe I can get through the emotional pain or the mental pain or the discomfort of ordeals and challenges, in day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also strange, as I said, because there's also this feeling of futility, because your body is temporary, and you know that it's, as much as it's regenerating itself and you can improve its quality, it's also going to die at some point. And there's this very weird sense of pointless meaninglessness to kind of any endeavor, especially physical ones, because you can't even maintain whatever the best shape you ever get in.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't going to last. It isn't going to even last for that long, just a handful of years. So there also is this strange frustration with realizing your own mortality and the passing of everything. But I think that is all that does ultimately, I think, is ideally, in the best case, is it sort of keeps things in perspective and keeps things in check so that you don't get too carried away with the material pursuit of physical excellence, because that it can be very easy to get obsessed with that, and then you are putting all your time and energy and life into something that maybe isn't the most worthwhile use of your time. But I would never criticize someone for really devoting themselves to fitness, but deep down inside they know that it takes a lot of energy, and it might not really, what does it really do at the end of the day? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a strange little puzzle that each person has to figure out for themselves how far to go. And for me, the best thing that I can say about it, my mom was always very passionate about sports and exercise and just being physically active, whether I really wanted to do it or not. But through her encouragement, I was able to really learn that I would feel better after doing some kind of exercise, whether it was swim team or whether it was gym class or some after-school soccer team. I noticed that it changed my mood for the better. And being someone who really, really struggled and has continued to struggle with bad moods and depression, anger, and sadness, and senses of complete bleakness, that there's something about physical expenditure that transforms those bad feelings into something good. Mm-hmm. And I can feel it happening as it's happening, and it's become more powerful and magical and amazing to me, that sort of like music, it's something I can count on every day, no matter what, that if I do it, I will feel better than if I don't do it. Even if it's hard or tiring, even if I'm sick. Otherwise, I count on exercising when I am sick as a way to get better, to heal faster, and it works for me at least. Mm-hmm. So it's a real magical transformation of taking bad feelings, bad energy, anger, whatever, low emotions, and you can literally transform them, transmute them, like a magic trick, into better feelings. Even if that better feeling is just improving your body, but when you can improve your state of mind, then you're really, onto something with it.
Awesome. Well, good job. You answered 3 of my questions in one, so that's awesome.
Oh, great.
So
that was a good first question.
Oh, a heck of a great answer. What is your current exercise training program like? I mean, do you have a weekly exercise routine that you could kind of share with us?
Well, it all depends. I mean, when I'm on tour, I can do all my cardiovascular exercise comes from playing shows, because our show performs this music style. It's very high energy and very vigorous. So it involves, I mean, there's never been a show, for my music at least, where I haven't been completely drenched, usually within, the first 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's just, I almost feel like even if I just stood still, there's something about this style of music that it just brings that out of you, which is something I'm very thankful for, because again, there's been many times when I've had a show to play and felt either, was physically ill or was extremely exhausted or whatever, but I didn't have to worry about it, because I knew once that music kicked in, it would take over, and it would bring things out of me energy-wise that I didn't even have to summon myself. It summoned it for me. It's a power unto itself. So I'm very thankful for that. And I again, I really count on that music to me, music is actually very closely related, as I said, to exercise. I get a lot of the same goodness from it, and it affects me in a very similar way in terms of changing my mood radically for the better. So beyond playing shows, which definitely probably is for the last 20 years been my main kind of cardio, I also do a lot of air drumming. I did that over the years with weighted gloves or wrist weights, and just playing along to mostly not to my music, but to one album in particular, an album called Harmony Corruption by Napalm Death. It could be described as death metal or grindcore. A lot of amazing drum beats, many of them very fast and intense, and many changing tempos, and it's one of my favorite albums, and it has been since I first heard it, probably around 20 years ago, and it's something that I've done. Like I would get on an elliptical machine or on a bike and just play the drum parts with my arms while doing whatever I could and sort of following the energy level. If it was a really fast part, I would go as fast as I could on the bike or on the elliptical, and if it was a slower part, I would turn the resistance way up and kind of grind with it. But that was just I don't think I could do 45 minutes of that really high impact kind of exercise without music. In fact, I know I couldn't. I could push myself and get some semblance of that intensity. But again, once that music's on, it brings something out of me that isn't there otherwise. It's very mysterious. And then beyond that, I've always enjoyed weightlifting because there's nothing in terms of these feelings I have, like anger and depression and a lot of frustration that comes from being frustrated about having the bad feelings. Pushing against weight there's nothing else like that. I can feel the feeling changing as I push the weight. It's great to have such a tangible experience of transformation happen as you're doing it. It takes a lot of willpower to do that just in your own thoughts. It's certainly possible, and I always work at that too. But when I have check please. Thank you very much. If I have a weight to push, I can actually feel it happen. I can push against the feeling physically and know that it's improving me as a person.
Awesome. So, kind of building on the weight training, what's your favorite exercise or lift?
Well, none in particular. Years and years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I was very into very, very heavy weights and sort of just like the most physically challenging things I could do. Because again, there's something else that happens in that when I would do, like 20 squats, one set, heaviest weight. This is based on Iron Mind. This program, maybe you're familiar with it, yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, it was very brutal. I guess they call it breathing squats. And after, I probably at that time was doing 210 pounds, and, after 10 reps, it was very intense, and then you realize you're only halfway there, and every rep becomes sort of like the hardest thing you'd ever done in a way. And thank you, sir. And you realize as you're doing it that you can't think of anything else. There's no other. Talk about being in the present moment. You're almost sort of beyond the present moment. You're so present that you're in some other state where there is no time, there is no thought, there is only surviving this ordeal that in one way is very immediate and very short-lived, but it is, as far as you're concerned, nothing else could even be happening. So that was always really intense. And then since then, I don't know, maybe just sort of you're always kind of trying to change it up. I just try to change things up, I guess, now. I like machines, I like free weights. I always am interested in just seeing sort of what happens. And there's sometimes when you're trying to muster up that aggression to do really challenging lifts and you don't have it. And sometimes I wonder if that's good, like I don't have that anger. And then I try to make up something to be angry about. And I've noticed sometimes that's not even working, or it sort of gets distracted. Now I'm happy in one way that I'm kind of not in a bad mood. I can't use that. So then you have to kind of compete with yourself. And I feel like I've done done my best when I wasn't even thinking about any particular situation I was angry about it. I was just thinking about doing the best that I possibly could do without it having to be about any bad feelings. So that was sort of a new experience more recently.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so, when it comes to training in general, what's your current goals?
No goals really. Just it's something that I do because I feel like I'm supposed to do it. Thank you. I don't really have a lot of goals. That is my goal in life right now. And I used to not think that way at all. I used to have to have these very clear goals, very specific goals in every area of life that you visualize and get towards. And I worked that way for a long time, but gradually abandoned it when I noticed that the goals that I was setting weren't nearly as interesting or as rewarding as the things that were happening to be outside of those goals or instead of those goals, things that were confounding my own goals and turned out to be more rewarding and better than even what I could have ever dreamed of.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to think that maybe there was a different plan for me that I couldn't take control of, that something was in control of me. So now my only goal is to be able to serve whatever that is, and that's my one and only goal. And oh, okay. All right, thank you. Take your time. So, yeah, I don't really have a personal goal with exercise other than I feel like it's my obligation to do it because I can tell it makes me a better person.
Awesome. And since you spend so much time on the road, what's your typical, I guess best way to describe it would be, your diet, what's your breakfast like, lunch, what do you try and do when you're on the road?
I've also tried all kinds of things like that over the years. I mean, I've been everything from vegan at times to eating whatever I wanted at all times, to trying not to eat that much, to trying to eat as much as I possibly could. I mean, like anyone, tried all kinds of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
sort of for fun, and you just get interested in different approaches. But now, I try to eat oatmeal in the mornings whenever possible, and that's one thing you can always bring with you easily is an oatmeal. There's certain foods you can usually find anywhere, like canned tuna, of course, and protein bars. I really believe in all the protein supplements very much, even though they're not that enjoyable to eat all the time or that satisfying. And they have a lot, of course, artificial sweeteners and things like that. I don't really know how good or bad those things are. It's something that you can rely on. And sometimes you also just realize that eating doesn't have to really be this pleasurable thing that you look forward to. There's other times when it can be that, and there's times when it's just about sustaining yourself. So supplements and vitamins, they can count as food. They'll never be as good as regular food, but when you're traveling, it's better than eating junk food.
Mm-hmm.
But I also really like junk food, so I enjoy that too. And just don't eat it forever. You just eat it until you feel like you don't. And if you're very active, then you can eat it and eat all kinds of stuff and don't have to worry about it too much. I don't like taking the intentionally limiting oneself, but I also do respect and appreciate people who are very stringent with their diet because they enjoy the challenge of that. It's something to focus on. It's something to give your life structure. It gives you a sense of control.
Mm-hmm.
And as we talked about earlier, though, that can quickly turn into an energy drain
Mm-hmm.
or a type of obsession that might take you away from the bigger parts of life. So it can also, that's something we have to be very responsible about. But I really love food and every kind of it. One thing I have noticed over many years is I just don't like sugar as much as I used to. That's something that's happened gradually over the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly why. But that's something that I just don't ever crave. I really like savory food, spicy food, and things like that.
Awesome. And so, pardon my nerd, but in your music video for She Is Beautiful, midway through, you make a protein shake in a kitchen.
Yeah.
Is that the Andrew WK smoothie recipe, or is that just something you do on occasion? Or
But at that time, I did a lot of blender stuff. Always had a blender on the road, on tour with us,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely like putting bananas in I don't use a blender anymore because the way they make protein powder now is really well processed. That you can do it with just shaking it or even just stirring it, depending on what kind you get. So don't need the blender anymore. Don't like bananas anymore as much as I used to, which again is crazy. I can't believe I'm saying it because they're so sweet. I do like bananas. I would get them when they're not as ripe. But it's never something that I crave the same way, even though I do think it's one of the best fruits and best foods, and certainly would eat that if there weren't other things around. Yeah, now I just, protein and water. I don't even put ice in it. There's a lot of people that, as friends of mine and stuff, that try to make their, thank you very much, their supplements more appetizing, but never been a real big important thing with me.
Awesome. And so, on the other side of the recovery, how important is sleep to you in general?
There's times when I really liked it, and there's times when I haven't slept very much and felt really great. There's times when I haven't slept very much and didn't feel good. It all depends what was going on, what my mood was. Otherwise, when I've been really depressed, most of the time I just want to sleep constantly. To try to cancel out existence and stay in some sort of oblivious state. But more or less, I don't know. I mean, it's strange. Sometimes I can be totally fine with just 3, 4, 5 hours, and then other times I feel like even after 10 hours, I haven't had enough, and take naps and stuff. So it just depends what's going on and what you have to do. And for better or worse, I don't have a lot of routines. I don't have a lot of things that are consistent, including sleep or any of these things, for better or worse. I try to just do it the best I can do, and I actually enjoy not having that kind of stability in terms of routine. I want the stability just to come from within myself as a person, and be able to have things changing all over the place, so that I don't, because otherwise it can be very stressful when you're thrown off and all of a sudden you necessarily 8 hours, and oh no, I didn't get oatmeal, or oh no, I missed this one day of in the gym, and that's not a fun way for me to live. I have a lot of friends again that I really respect who are very dedicated to a routine and more or less living the same day with slight variations every single day forever. And it's just different temperaments. My constitution isn't set up for that.
So not a rigorous structure, but more or less making sure that you get in what you need when you need it?
Just do the best you can and try to show up for life. Trying to be useful to life and not too self-centered with my own schedule is what I try to do more. I'm trying to get better in that regard. You start to remove yourself from other possibilities when you get locked into one version of life, and I don't feel like it's as beneficial for me or anyone else that I might have something to offer to just solely be focused on one kind of way of living for me. But I don't disrespect anyone else who does any other way.
Awesome. And sorry, kind of cantering back a little bit, what was your favorite sport when you were growing up?
Well, I did the most with swimming, and I did like that because despite it having team events and a team spirit, it was a more or less solitary experience, at least when you're swimming. I mean, there's a sensory isolation that comes from being underwater like that. And I always kind of enjoyed that, but it was really my mom that pushed me to do it, and I had a very sort of, thank you, torn relationship with it. There's other things sometimes that I would rather be doing, and like drawing or making music or anything else. And still, it's never to this day, my first choice to go to a pool or go to the beach or go to water. I think it kind of lost any desire to go in the water again after being in the water so much. But maybe it will. Just did a lot. Otherwise, I didn't really have a favorite sport to play. I didn't feel like I was very good at any of them. There was a kind of personality type that I noticed in my classmates and other students who excelled at sports, and I just didn't really relate to that mindset. Even now, I've had times with working out with friends and having a workout partner, and understood and appreciated what I could do, but really now I've gotten into only working out completely alone as possible with the music, and just having it be this very isolated experience. And that, to me, has been the best way I can get into sort of the mindset that I appreciate about any physical effort. Even when I play with my band, in those moments that are very challenging, it's just you and the challenge itself. And of course, people can motivate you, and people can bring things out of you as well, but it comes down to this kind of, for me, like this battle between the challenge and yourself, and that's, to me, the most exciting.
Awesome. When you did train with other people, what would you say made a good training partner, or who was your best training partner?
Well, I worked with some professional trainers that I liked because the best one I had was a guy who wasn't particularly friendly. He wasn't mean or anything. He wasn't what I would even call surly or intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Just extremely focused, and I felt like I was inconveniencing him by training with him, which was excellent. As being late, I didn't want to ever be late because it would be so disrespectful, and he would be so irritated, and I would never try to slack off because I was wasting his time, even though I was paying him. And he was able to, he sort of taught me a lot of things in the earlier days, just in terms of form, and was very encouraging though as well, but not in a way that was very dry, in a way that was very straightforward. I never felt like he was trying to flatter me or inflate my ego in any way. He just said, these are things that you could do very well at. You're lucky to have these certain attributes. You need to work more on this and that and the other. There was never any small talk. There was never any chatter about anything, which I really liked, because I really don't care for that. I find that very, very difficult to. I don't find that kind of exercise to be a social experience at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I've had a really hard time, even with working out with family members, to do anything, because it's not. That's not what it's about to me. It's a very private kind of intense thing that I have to go through. But again, training partners are very important for other people because they allow them to do things that they wouldn't do otherwise. I've been able to, just to get over that of not feeling like training. Like I will not skip it.
Mm-hmm.
I won't skip it, even when I've had fevers and everything else. And even if it's a crappy workout, at least I just did it. It's one of those things that I actually can count on. Maybe out of all the talk of not having a routine, that is one routine. And of course, not every single day, because there's days when I'll say like, "Oh, I'm too sore and I need to recover," or you can just sort of tell that it wouldn't be smart, and then you could injure yourself or something like that. But otherwise, it's just it's a type of discipline that you can develop that's very easy in terms of the world at large. It's a type of way you can say, "Well, I really can have discipline. Well, I really can rely on myself to follow through with this kind of promise or this kind of dedication that I made to myself." And you can do it. You can. Sometimes it'll be really hard. Sometimes you just can't imagine. You're sitting there and you cannot imagine that in 15 minutes you're going to be going into this gym and pushing a weight as hard as you possibly can, basically doing the hardest thing you've ever done. You can't believe that's about to happen, but next thing you know, you're walking out of the room and you're going to the gym or wherever it is. You're putting one foot in front of the other, and next thing you know, the music's on, and next thing you know, you're stretching and warming up, and next thing you know, you're doing it. And then you realize, wow, it's just a matter of actually taking action. And when you develop discipline in something very specific and relatively low pressure, like exercise, then the idea of developing discipline elsewhere in your life, like personal character and resilience and reliability to other people beyond yourself. And when you give your word and make promises to other people, you think, well, I know I can do this. I know I've developed this quality within myself. That's probably the most valuable part of all about anything that exercise could ever be, is that it can actually make you a better person, not just physically, but inside as well.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And so I think you've probably already hit this from a couple angles, but just kind of ask you directly. What would be your advice for a young woman or young man when it comes to exercise in general?
Well, just again from my own experience, I really would recommend working, even just having one training session with someone who knows what they're doing. Preferably not a friend, but again, if you have a friend that can be very respectful of you and be very serious and really try to help you and that you can trust. But there's something about it being a professional, in my opinion, or a stranger, that adds a level of integrity to the whole pursuit and takes it away from being sort of a casual or a fun thing and puts it into this different area, like you're really learning a skill, like when I was trained in jobs and things, they usually weren't friends of mine, they were the boss or some more experienced employee that I got the pleasure of learning from, and I respected them because they weren't just someone that I knew really well. Not that I don't respect my friends. So I think having a trainer, and I see people, like we all do all the time, who you can tell, like they just have very, very bad form, or they just, who knows what they're thinking. It's great now because certainly you can go on the computer and you can learn a huge amount from all kinds of great free videos and resources that didn't exist when I was learning, exercises and movements. But once you get those proper forms, then you can go independent again. But it's very dangerous. It's counterproductive even to not have that. It'd be like trying to play an instrument. You can figure it out as you go, or you can have one or two lessons just to get the basics. Or even, instrument isn't as good because you really can't teach yourself that. Certainly, people can teach themselves how, but it would be very hard to learn how to play an instrument without listening to music, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely watch other people, or it's like typing. People can learn how to type with just two fingers, or you can take some instructional time and get that proper hand position, then you're pretty much set forever. So I really recommend going to see a trainer.
Mm-hmm. So, and just kind of a couple more. What's the most recent thing that you learned about training, nutrition, or just yourself in general when it comes to health and overall well-being?
Well, that it's just a continuous aspect of life. That it wasn't. That's what I was sort of describing earlier. It's not really a goal, that thing for me anymore. It's not about hitting a certain number on the scale. It's not about really looking a certain way. It's more, if anything, about feeling a certain way. But even beyond that, there's times when I don't feel that great, or I feel like I was a really bad workout. It didn't help at all. I'm still in a bad mood. But even that, it's like breathing. It's just part of what it is to be a human being now, to me. Like eating, or drinking water, or sleeping, or any other thing that you kind of have to do to survive. That's been a new way of feeling about it. That it's something that I don't feel that passionate about either, because sometimes that passion would wane, and I don't want to be affected by that either. Mm-hmm. I used to be, in the earlier days, I'd be very obsessive about it. I was very, very, very obsessed with gaining as much weight as I could back in the late 90s. And there were times when that type of mindset worked for me, but there was times when it really worked against me, and discouragement would be amplified, because if I didn't hit certain goals, or I didn't do exactly what I wanted, or it wasn't working, or I would just feel like the whole thing was stupid. Just like I would get these waves of feeling of, what am I even doing? Why am I putting so much energy in trying to gain weight? This is all just so stupid. And then I would give up, and I don't want to have that option to even think that way, that it's good or bad, that it's just something that I do. And again, that it's not even a choice. I don't want to even feel like it's my decision, that it's a decision that was made for me by destiny, that I am obligated to live up to. That's how I think of it now. Like it's part of my duty. And that really puts it into a different place that I've never really had it live in before. A different part of sense of purpose about sort of maybe the opportunity I've been given to be alive at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have to respect that by trying to take care of it, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, about how much has your weight really changed over the years with strength training? Just
well, in the beginning, I was always very, skinny growing up, like a lot of people. So when I really started going for it at around age, I'd say 19, I probably weighed 168 pounds. And by age 21, had gone up to like the highest, like 220.
Nice.
And, it was all just pure weight gain. That was all I cared about. I didn't care if it was fat or muscle or water retention or anything. I was just obsessed with this scale.
Mm-hmm.
But it was very satisfying to see that actually that could be done, that it really could happen through eating a huge amount of food and through doing very, very heavy weights.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know how much I weigh now exactly, maybe 210 or something like that. And then I just sort of stopped caring about trying to be as heavy as I possibly could. Sort of once I achieved that, it wasn't something I thought, it was almost sort of like a stunt, just to see that I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And now, again, it's not, I just want to try to be, wouldn't even say try to be my best, because that would entail doing things that I'm probably actually not doing. It's just something, maybe this will even change. Right now, I just feel like this is something I just do every day, you know?
Mm-hmm. So I had a chance, I saw you at the Warped Tour in 2003 in St. Louis, and then I saw you in Lawrence, Kansas, summer of 2013, and you looked, I think even your clothes were the exact same.
Yeah, probably could have been the same pair of pants, that's for sure.
I was just impressed with the fact that obviously for someone that's been going for so long and so hard, you've maintained the same energy on the stage and the same physicality to your shows. So,
well, that goes again. I got to give credit just to the power of music for that, because that just one thing I didn't even expect. I wouldn't have expected 10 years later to have, I guess, the even more enthusiasm for the songs, even more excitement about playing music, playing live, and enjoying playing those specific songs, the same ones, enjoying them even more than when I first recorded them. That's all been very surprising and completely enthralling, that it's been able to not only keep giving, but to continue blossoming over all these years. I appreciate your compliment there.
Oh, you earned it, and I still have regrets for breaking off that handshake from you in Lawrence earlier than I felt I should have.
Oh, don't feel bad about that.
And I noticed online that it's not offered in the U.S., that there is an Andrew WK workout plan. Is there any chance there'll be a U.S. release of that?
Oh, well, I don't think it's anything. That was a video that was just made for fun. It actually was made in the U.S. If it's the one I think you're talking about. Like, someone made something themselves, but there's no real workout plan. It's just basically headbanging and thrashing and fist pumping as hard as you can for as long as you can.
I still think you should patent it and put it on the market.
Yeah, well, maybe so. It's not a bad idea. I appreciate that. I mean, the good thing again is, though, any music that a person likes that gets that type of energy developed within them, you can really just let it do its work on you. It kind of develops its own plan. Just, again, air drumming, rocking out, that physical sort of a dance. I think it's beyond dance, because it's much more utilitarian. There's this feeling of, playing music to me, which I guess can be kind of like dancing, but there's this sense that you're making that feeling happen, and it's making you make it happen. There's this perpetual quality to it. I mean, playing drums, the excitement you get from pounding out those beats gives you the excitement to continue pounding out those beats. It's again, very mystical.
And so, when you're training, what's the music that you typically listen to?
Maybe just Napalm Death, that Harmony Corruption album, some other stuff sometimes. But if I really want to go into this certain space, that one always works. So I've listened to it every day for really, last 20 years, basically.
Awesome. And then the final two questions is, when would you say, if at all, was your prime when it came to physical strength and your endurance? And two separate times or maybe the same?
Well, my endurance, I think, has gotten better over the years just through efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And that's making choices about what movements to make. So actually, I've gotten more efficient in that regard, but maybe, I don't know, recently or a few years ago, depends how often I'm playing. If I'm playing a show every night, I'm getting winded every night, that's how that seems to develop. With strength, probably when I was doing those, super heavy, low rep or even high rep weightlifting,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly what my maximums were, because I wasn't necessarily keeping track, but I probably could lift a lot more weight then than I could now. Well, actually, maybe the best I ever did was I lifted Butterbean.
Piggyback ride and ran around?
Yeah, well, he's a boxer,
Mm-hmm.
big wrestler guy himself, and I lifted him on my shoulders from a low starting position squat. And the Jackass We Want Fun video that we filmed, and I think he weighed about 400 pounds.
Holy cow.
And I got him up. I mean, I could feel my spine compressing. But that's probably the heaviest I ever lifted, and that was also the most challenging just because of the human being, and the balance is more difficult, and there's a lot of stabilizing that has to go on. I couldn't believe, that was all pure adrenaline. I couldn't believe I was doing it. You're pushing up, and you feel like nothing's happening, and you're just going up
Mm-hmm.
centimeter by 1 centimeter. Next thing you know, you're up and you're locked out. But that was probably the most weight I've ever lifted in any capacity.
That was for the Jackass movie, right? The first one?
Yeah, you can see it in the video if you can find the video. It's been taken offline for some reason, but I think it's still up on Vimeo or some other website.
Awesome. And so, final question, and this is actually from my little sister, but she wanted me to ask was, can we be best friends?
Oh yeah, for sure. As far as I'm concerned, we already have been. So tell her yes. Whenever she is in the mindset of positive partying, then I am there, and even when she's not, I'm there encouraging her to get back into that mindset.
Awesome. She will greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm so happy you were able to give us a call today. And if you ever find yourself in Richmond, Kentucky, always feel to come on by. We got a nice weight room downstairs, and can put on some Napalm Death.
Yeah, I'll blast it. Are you going to put this up somewhere that we could share, or is it just for your own internal use?
It's twofold. So one part is I'm going to obviously do a little editing, but yeah, I'll probably eventually put this on either the EKU website itself, or I'll be putting it on some other type of website, probably a blog, and I will definitely make sure that I send a link to, I believe Charlie is your...
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah. Is he your manager, or...
His assistant. I mean, it helps me with day-to-day stuff, sort of management, but more helper, right-hand person, left-hand person.
Awesome. And yeah, so I will definitely make sure that I get in contact and give them any information. If you guys want to take a look and do any editing before it gets put out there, I'm more than happy to make sure we do that.
No, just send the link when it's up, and thanks again for all the great questions. It was really, I enjoyed getting to talk about this. It's not something almost ever anyone asks me about, so I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you again. You have yourself a great time, and hopefully I'll get to see you again live sometime in the near future.
I look forward to it. Thank you again. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.